A warm welcome from our side here. My name is Diane Langenbacher. I think you know me. I'm part of the operating committee of the International Liver Cancer Movement. And as you know, we introduced the ILCM Incubator webinars back in last year. We are very happy to have the fourth one today. So 1, 2, 3 have taken place in October, November, and February. And I think we are very confident, we all are very confident that future tracks will be delivered. And there are so many interesting and valuable and important topics. So we definitely will not run out of new topics and new interesting things we would like to present in this format. We welcome very warmly today Adia from Campaign for Cancer, South Africa, and Achim, who is helping us facilitating through the webinar and leads the discussion later on. Based on the ILCM member survey we did last summer, I think it was pretty clear that advocacy is a topic where many of us have the wish to improve their skills. Not many of such tools are available. One of the, I think, awesome community-based tools has been done by Campaign for Cancer South Africa. And that's why we are so happy to have Adia today with us. She will present the tool and will show us how we all may benefit from using such a tool. And with that, I think, Achim, I would like to hand over to you to kickstart into the topic.
Thank you very much, Diana. And yeah, I'm also very happy today that we have you, Adia, from Campaign for Cancer to introduce the patient advocacy incubator tool. And when we talk about advocacy, I think so every one of us is doing advocacy. And I think normally advocacy is associated to influence policymakers. But is that the truth? Don't we have more recipients we like to influence? So what is about other stakeholders in our environment? Doctors, stakeholders, supporters, sponsors. So I think the broad range of advocacy is very, very important. And therefore, I'm very happy that we have in today now Adia, because she will present a tool that covers all these aspects. And the other point I like very much, the tool that has been developed by Campaign for Cancer, is it is a community-based tool. It is learning from community for community. And with this, I hand over to you, but I like to introduce you, Adia, with a short bio. Because you have started your professional career in cancer in 2018 when you joined Campaign for Cancer. And so over the years, so yourself have dedicated your skills for campaigning cancer and demonstrating the steadfast commitment to its mission. And through the hard work, I think you have progressed very much and have achieved very much. Nowadays, you are the program director of this big organization. And I'm sure that we in the environment will hear many, many more years from you, Adia, because you have excellent ideas, and I'm very happy to have you here today to present the tool. So the floor is up to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Achim. Can I just... Please do let me know if everyone can hear me.
We can.
Okay, thank you so much, Achim. Thank you, everyone, for joining the meeting of today. Just to give you an introduction about myself, as Achim said, my name is Adia, and I work for Campaigning for Cancer as a program director. Campaigning for Cancer is a patient advocacy organization based in South Africa. And thank you guys for having me to introduce to you all an innovative initiative that aims to empower patient advocate within the region of Middle East and Africa. Could you please move to the next slide? Thank you. Just to provide a little bit of history on how the Patient Advocates Incubator came to life. There was a task team called for Patient Advocates group within the Famamia region in the Middle East and Africa. And they wanted to understand how patient group work, how the curriculum is, what type of education and upskilling or capacity building program we as an organization or people within the organization felt they needed. And throughout the discussion, a lot of things were discussed, and a realization came out of that discussion that a lot of learning material that were developed were mostly done by learning institution, consultancy, and there wasn't a place for patient advocate to deliver to that peer group the training that they all had created and that they could share or ask for practical outcome, like things they could use. So out of that discussion, there was a few things that came out of it. And they realized that they needed to create a Middle East Africa region patient advocacy academy. There is something similar like this that exists in Europe, but for the Middle East and African region, they wanted to have their own, having tools that will benefit the region for themselves. And just by taking you out through the process, this is how the realization came out to create the Patient Advocate Incubator. Is they wanted it to be ran by the patient advocate for the patient advocates. And this is how the idea of the PAI arrived. Could you please move to the next slide? So we wanted the incubator to basically support advocates by strengthening their capability and empower them to be considered as a value stakeholder. We also wanted the incubator to provide accessible and reliable information regarding training. And lastly, we wanted to present curriculum that is high standard, content that is relevant. So basically, just to give a short background, the Patient Advocate Incubator, we wanted it to be an innovation hub where we could reach out to other organizations in the Middle East region and Africa to provide tools that are resourceful to upskill patient advocates in the region. Could you please move on the next slide? So this is how the platform looks like. These are our supporters. We have different resources available on the platform. It's not only targeted to cancer. You will find there are different disease areas. Materials are tailored to different target audience. As I said earlier, these are not resources that are currently just provided by Campaigning for Cancer, but it's a platform like a library where we are outsourcing, reaching out to other coalitions in other countries, Middle East and African region, just to find out from them if there is any capability resources they would like us to host free of charge to upscale the patient advocates. So they can upload their resources there, and we can advertise it to reach out different target audience. So at the moment, we have 14 modules. There is different topics on mental, social media. So basically anything that the patient advocate wanted to learn. We had a survey that was sent out to patient advocates, and they reached out to us on what they wanted to learn. And all this were provided and uploaded on the platform. Could you please move on the next slide? So this is how the dashboard looks like. Once a user logs in on the platform, they will find recorded videos, learning material that are modified, just simplified for their understanding. Once they finalize or complete the activity or course, they get to go out with a strategic plan, like a strategic plan to help benefit them. There are certain courses that has certificates of completion that they can use as well. These videos are recorded. Once they have issues or they would like to have a one-on-one mentorship or coaching, what we do is we have representatives from Middle East and African region who are key opinion leaders based on the topic that we have uploaded on the platform. So if they have issue maybe on how to fundraise or have a fundraise for a grant in the countries, we get to actually present them to one of the key opinion leaders in their countries who can have a one-on-one with them to take them through that plan, the issue they are having, how they can tackle it, how they can advocate it in their community. So they get to have a one-on-one experience with a key opinion leader once they have finalized the content uploaded here. Would you please move on the next slide? So the next slide, we have past learners who have benefited from this personalized coaching and mentorship. They have also highlighted the platform impact on their advocacy work. If you could please just play the clip for them to see. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kofula, and I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I am an alumni of the Patient Incubator Academy last year, and I'm really, really happy to have participated in this great training. I would like to give a testimonial on behalf of Campaigning for Cancer and the Patient Advocacy Incubator platform for the International Liver Cancer Movement. I'm an oncology patient navigator and a breast cancer survivor. I really have participated in this great training. How did I get to learn about this training? I am the secretary of the Kenyan Network of Cancer Organizations, KENCO, and KENCO normally shares information of opportunities with their members. I thought to learn about this wonderful opportunity. In addition, I'm the chair lady of the Cancer Survivors Association of Kenya and the founder and executive director of ILCM's Cancer Support Foundation. So in my own right, I am a leader, and so I thought this training was going to be very, very critical in the work that I do. Above all, I'm also a cancer survivor, 10 years now. So again, the training was really going to support me in what I do because I am a patient. Okay. College patient navigation is the individualized assistance given to patients and their families to help overcome the many barriers to care, whether through the healthcare system or the environment, and to facilitate timely access to quality medical and psychosocial care. I learned a lot of things in this training. We were taught about leadership. We were taught about strategies, coming up with strategies for our organizations. We were taught about social media. How do you use social media? We were taught about advocacy, and this for me is very, 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 I'm very passionate about advocacy because I am a patient advocate. So it was actually one of my most interesting topics because I was able to learn how to develop and to come up with a very clear problem. Because you don't have clear problem, then you're not able to come up with the advocacy message.
For me, patient navigation is pure advocacy. We are the ones to advocate for our patients.
Then I was able to learn how to develop clear goals, how to come up with identifying people that I can be able to work with, because in advocacy, it's always good to work with other organizations. So
To be the voice of the patient who cannot speak.
how do you formalize it? So you need to know the decision makers, who are the influencers. Then I was also able to learn about how do I develop a compelling message after I come up with a problem.
Patient advocacy incubator provided me and helped me immensely in understanding training, capacity building in the NPO field. The course also provides the following: how to create an effective organization, building campaigns, developing policy, strategizing for effective outcomes, building negotiating skills, and fundraising for projects.
I've come up with a clear goal. I have developed alliances. How then do I come up with a compelling message that I can be able to share? Of course, finally, is getting the timing right. Because if, for example, the advocacy message is in line with something happening like right now, then I would have to share that message like within that period.
Something that really helped me understand a lot was how to work and how funders, strategic partners, decision makers, influencers are also vitally important in the role of advocacy.
I was also able to learn about branding, and I also enjoyed this one very, very much, because I got to understand about me as a brand, as a personal brand, and what drives me, what is my vision, how do I want to get there, who am I as Priska. So I was actually able, what is my purpose and why I was able to learn about that.
Just to be able to provide the data collection, the data reporting, and the data analyzing for the funders, the strategic partners, the decision makers, and to prove how important navigation is and how it assists the patient, how it assists the large hospital groups in cost saving, in improving patient outcomes, in keeping patients out of hospital for long periods of time, of preventing patients going through casualties. All of those factors are so vitally important in being able to navigate your patient through this journey.
There was also another very good training on grant writing. And again, as a person who works with organizations that work within the cancer space, money is always scarce. So you need to understand how to come up with a good grant proposal. So I was also able to.
I also found the course very informative in helping me to understand advocacy a lot better, for capacity building and for effective communication, which is so vitally important in navigation and in advocacy. And in navigation, it's so important. We are at the forefront of a full multidisciplinary team of healthcare workers and can just provide the whole multidisciplinary team assisting our patients and giving them those better outcomes throughout their journeys.
I would like to encourage anybody, if you are a patient advocate, if you work with organizations, you're a leader, I think this is a very important training for you, because you'll be able to learn all these critical things I've discussed previously. You'll be able to learn how to do a strategy for your organization. You'll be able to understand how to prepare a grant proposal, which is going to help your organization. You'll also be able to learn how to become a better leader and how to deal with problems when they come within your organization.
And I think for me, the most important thing is to provide our patients with the best possible outcomes on this very often daunting cancer journey.
So yeah, thank you, and I'm really happy, and thank you, the company from AXA, for training us and for bringing very, very good facilitators who are able to provide.
Thank you. These were just some learners who had done the courses on the PAI, giving their testimonials. Could we please move on the next slide?
Adia, I think that's the last one.
Yes, there's a clip and then there's a next.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yep.
not a problem.
So,
Yes, thank you. As I previously have said, the Patient Advocate Incubator is basically a library hub where we are reaching out to different coalitions in the country if they would like to host, if they would like us to host, or they know any other patient advocates on network with capacity building resources that can be useful for patient advocates. They can reach out to us by the email provided there. We can have a meeting and see how to upload the materials. And to access the platform, you can actually scan on the QR code provided, which you'll be able to register and navigate onto any resources you would like to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adia. Thank you very, very much, and it's highly interesting. And yeah, guys, so now you have seen many, many things and heard many, many things. So up to you. Do you have any questions to Adia? Perhaps I like to start because Adia, the testimonials mentioned one very important thing. When it comes to advocacy, we have different cultures, we have different areas of diseases. But my learning now over 20 years, and perhaps you can comment on this. Once you have a tactic developed, an advocacy tactic, so you can transfer these skills from one disease to another disease, although of course you need to look a little bit deeper of what are the specifications of these diseases. Can you confirm that your attendees of using the tool coming from the different disease areas have benefited from each other independent of the disease area?
Thank you for that question, Akim. Yes, definitely. Through the platform, like I mentioned, we have educational materials, we have recording, we also have a group session where we gather all the learners after learning what they have, just to come in together to share what has been happening in the countries and what is different there, and how the resources we have provided is actually helping them better advocate. So I can definitely confirm that the learners have learned quite a lot, and they have utilized the information provided to accommodate themselves in the countries.
Great. And one other aspect I like to learn, perhaps also from you, but also from you, Shaibu, is when it comes to advocacy, we have different cultures. And Roberta, be aware that this is a question next to you when it comes to the Asian Pacific region. When I traveled around the world and helping to create advocacy, in Africa, I've learned that the culture of advocacy is different from Europe and the US advocacy. And I think you have other problems you need to address first. And perhaps both of you, Shaibu and Adia, can you a little bit explain what are the key areas of advocacy you would need to focus on in your region? I think, Adia, you have to start because Shaibu is still mute. Adia, have you heard the question when it comes to the different cultures of advocacy?
Sorry, could you please repeat? Sorry, could you please repeat?
When it comes to advocacy, so I think advocacy differs from different regions. It cannot be compared to advocacy in Europe in the same way in Africa. And can you a little bit explain what are the specification of advocacy is in Africa and where you normally have to focus on most in comparison to other regions like Asia or Europe or the US?
Oh, thank you for that question. Well, in South Africa, yes, advocacy differs, but the focus more lies on advocacy through public awareness, basically raising awareness of the different diseases. Because we found that in the country, not a lot of people are aware of certain diseases, because here in South Africa, mostly cervical cancer and breast cancer are dominant in terms of raising awareness. And for other diseases, it's a bit challenging. So to kind of tackle that, there are different guideline, basically steps, policy to go through, you know, just to increase awareness, you know, of the different diseases. All of that is provided on our materials that we have uploaded on the Patient Advocate, basically on how advocates can tackle that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you mentioned also a very good point, using existing data. And this is perhaps a question to you, Helen, and to you, Charlotte. Both of you are UK based, and of course, within the UK, so you need the evidence advocacy. So you need to provide good data, you need to provide good arguments. And I wonder if you can perhaps short explain how your organizations collect this data, but then transform them that politicians and other stakeholders can understand. Can you give an example? Because Helen, I think you have raised a great campaign in cholangiocarcinoma, and it was a very successful February, I hope. And perhaps the papers you have published recently is full of data. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of flavor of how you have organized this.
Thank you very much, and thank you for such an informative presentation. That's a huge amount of work there, and I think you should really be applauded for how much you've done. Yes, I'm Helen Morment, and I'm CEO at AMMF, the cholangiocarcinoma charity. We're based here in the UK. We do work across Europe, but we also collaborate globally. I'm very happy to share any information we have on cholangiocarcinoma, which is a primary liver cancer. It is equal in incidence to the other primary liver cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, but that is not known or understood. And that is one of the reasons why we embarked on our own data project, because the data did not support what we were seeing in real terms every single day. So the charity had to put together a proposal, and we had to go to our own healthcare authority and data registry to have this approved, so that we could pull out the data about cholangiocarcinoma, which is public data, but of course it's very carefully guarded. Our proposals were approved, and it took us over 4 years, of course we had COVID pandemic in the middle, to pull out data on incidence, mortality, and so forth on cholangiocarcinoma and the other biliary tract cancers. And that has been, as Achim has alluded, it's been hugely important to us. On the back of the work that we've done, we managed to publish 3 papers in scientific journals. covering the incidence and mortality survival rates, but also the geographical inequalities that we actually were sort of suspected but weren't really aware of. So we had, to paraphrase Donald Rumsfeld, we came up with our known knowns, but we also came up with some unknown unknowns, which was shockingly that over 50% of cholangiocarcinoma patients do not receive any of the cancer-specific treatments that might be available to them, and that we need to drill deeper into the data to find out why that is. But the importance of this data is such that we now have the ammunition to go to those who make the policy to say, you can't ignore this primary liver cancer any longer. It's a hidden it's a hidden time bomb almost, because the incidence is increasing greatly year on year. I think over the period of our study, it had more than doubled, and we now have that data to prove that. So we prepared what we call a white paper, which uses the information from our published papers and the data to explain the findings and to list our asks. And our asks within the white paper are for those who can change policy, so our government, our healthcare authorities, to healthcare professionals to better recognize this cancer, and to patients themselves to have the courage. And it's very hard when you're diagnosed with this, which comes to many people out of the blue, to have the courage to say, well, if you don't know how to look after me, you need to refer me to somebody who does, because there are people who know about treatments for cholangio. And we have a lot more coming on board now with targeted therapies, immunotherapies, and so on. So it's about it's having the data. It gives everybody the ammunition to educate themselves from the top to the bottom. And so, that is our work. And alongside that, and I will stop shortly, we do have an awful lot of resources for our patients, which are freely available to download from our website. And we also, and I think I shared it with you, Arkham, I don't know if it was circulated, and we're happy to do that. We published or prepared a document, which is really for pan-cancer organizations. So it's a sort of everything you might need to know about cholangiocarcinoma. It is in English at the moment. There's a main version, there's a fast facts version, and a PowerPoint slide presentation to go with it. But we've also just translated it into French, German, Spanish, and Italian, and we've got another 4 or 5 languages coming along as well. So we will be sharing that. We share with anyone who wants it. We're always happy to share our information. But I will stop there, Arkham, because I realise I have.
Yeah, but great.
I can always talk, you know me.
I know. But thank you very much, Helen. And I think so that's very important. And before I like to come to you, David, because Helen, you mentioned pan cancer. So David, this is your organization. But Charlotte from the British Liver Trust, I think so both of you have a very successful advocacy strategy now over years in the UK. And can you confirm that evidence-based advocacy is very, very important?
Yes, I can. So I work more on liver disease rather than liver cancer on our advocacy and policy work there. But I can say that that using data is incredibly important. So what we do is use the data provided by the Office of Health Disparities and Inequality, OHID. I can't quite remember the acronym, but take this data, which is provided at like council level, regional level, for England, and looking at this data, we can distill what might be important to different policymakers. So if they're in the northeast of England, we would be able to highlight the mortality and the hospital admission rates for liver disease there, and explain it, the trends, and do a comparison to other regions, so that they can understand why they should be interested in improving outcomes in their region.
Thank you, Charlotte. And David, I'd like to hand over to you. David, you yourself called pan care. And I think Helen, you mentioned pan cancer. And I wonder if you can share a little bit your experience. So how you use advocacy, and where's your focus in advocacy when it comes to different disease areas that are a little bit similar, and not to stipulate one because of the other, because you cover many diseases. And then, of course, Rumki, I hope I've pronounced your name right. I'd like to come back to you, what you have written in the chat. David.
Yes. Hi, everyone. David Benzies from the Pancare Foundation in Australia. It's about 9:40 in the evening here, if you're wondering why my background's a little dark. Yeah, we support people across 5 gastrointestinal cancers. So liver, cholangiocarcinoma or biliary cancers, stomach cancer, esophageal cancer, and pancreatic cancer. So yeah, I guess one of our challenges is what are the commonalities across those cancers for people, because they're all GI or gastrointestinal related. And one of the big challenges for a lot of our community, of course, is dietetics, and dietetic support is quite often inadequate in our healthcare system, particularly in the acute system. So we provide a lot of ongoing support, similar to you, Helen, through development of resources. We have toolkits across the 5 different cancers, which people can have as a tangible resource that they can take with them to appointments and explain to their family what's going on with these cancers. One of our challenges too in advocacy, I think, is because our 5 cancers have low 5-year survival rates, but we get a lot of organisations come to us wanting patient advocates on all sorts of levels, and they want people to tell their stories. And we have to be very protective of our community of patients, because they're quite often very unwell. They're going through treatment, and it seems that a lot of organisations don't understand the complexities and just think these people are, because they've got a cancer, they're just going to immediately respond and tell their stories and advocate for more money, more care, etc. So we find that's a challenge. We have done similar work to what Charlotte was talking about, and Helen as well. We I guess you could sort of call it a white paper, but we call it a state of the nation. So we commissioned an organisation to look at the state of those 5 upper GI cancers across the whole country, and all the data and statistics, and unfortunately, some of the depressing stats, the low survival rates, and I'm sure it's common to many other countries, is the lack of investment in these cancers because they're seen as on their own rare cancers. Whereas if we put the 5 of ours together, you're looking at 13,000 diagnoses per year here in Australia, which extrapolates out to a lot of families and people that are impacted. And for pancreatic cancer now, across those 5 cancers, there's now 1 in 5 deaths nationally in Australia. So you're talking about a significant audience. But if we didn't put them together, it was too easy for government to ignore them, and for pharmaceutical companies and others, because they won't invest in something that doesn't get on their radar or doesn't seem to be something that they can make money out of, unfortunately. So yeah, but same as Helen, we're quite happy to share any resources. Love to see your resources Helen, and read your papers. We're advocating for the same audiences. Just one more thing I wanted to mention too is whether it's a challenge internationally is that I think what we get here in other diseases and in the health sector is you get a lot of what we would call professional consumers. So people who end up being consumers, but it's the same people representing in many different committees, many different government bodies, and we don't seem to get that grassroots reach, which I'm hoping you do in South Africa and the Middle East, where you're getting lots more people from lots of different backgrounds and cultures and geographical areas are actually becoming community advocates, not the same people, people with high health literacy levels, access to information, that sort of thing. I'll stop there too, because I can talk like Helen. Thanks, everyone.
Brothers in mind. Well, yeah, but David, Helen, Charlotte, I think this is a great opportunity today because I think Adia, you and Campaign for Cancer offer this platform where all these tools can be uploaded and be used by others, because the three of us, of you, Charlotte, Helen, and David, you are very experienced and you have great material and you have great training kits, etc. And I think it would be a pity if this would not be in the patient advocate incubator of the Campaign for Cancer. So do not hesitate right after the call to send an email to Adia. We have, in the meantime, also uploaded some materials, the training videos from the ILCM on the platform. And I have seen that first patients and patient representatives have used. So thank you very much for Adia. And now I'd like to come to you, Runchir. I don't know how to pronounce, but it would be great if you can a little bit further explain what you have written in the chat, because the specification of Africa you have mentioned and the differentiation between advocacy and awareness, I think that's very interesting aspects, and I like to learn from you, how you do it in your day-to-day job.
Okay, thank you very much. This is my first time meeting most of the people in the room, and I'm really delighted. I received the email and immediately I saw it was about advocacy in Africa. I was really, really interested, and thanks for hosting this. So my name is Ronsi Chidebe. I'm the executive director of Project Pink Blue. We are a non-profit based in Nigeria. And our work is really highly focused with in patient engagement and patient advocacy. And these are also two different things. Patient engagement, because we work with a lot of patients to drive a lot of programs, intervention, and other advocacy work. So one major national advocacy work that we drove in Nigeria was as far as 2016, when we wanted to ensure that things around cancer control in Nigeria is handled by an institution, by a government agency in Nigeria. Because before now, Nigeria does not have an agency. We does not have something like the National Institute for Cancer Control, like you'd have in many countries. Everything about cancer is handled by a department in the Ministry of Health, which is you're having the life of over 120,000 cancer patients in the hands of 9 staff who are just a unit in the ministry. We started the advocacy at the National Assembly, asking the government to create a law, to bring out a law, to make a law that will help in having an institute that will cater for cancer control, treatment, diagnosis, palliative care, survivorship, all different levels of journey. To be very honest with you, my experience was that no one wanted to fund it. Donor agencies were not interested. Local funding organizations were not interested. Nobody all over the world, people didn't want to fund it. And philanthropy in Nigeria and in many parts of Africa is also very low, because it's not like in Europe and US, where you have people set up monthly donation for nonprofit. In Africa, some people are still even struggling to eat, and you're asking them to support to nonprofit. They will not even. It's not something to even consider. Yeah. So this is something I can talk for over 1 hour. But I know we don't have the time. But the reality is that advocacy is a tougher job. That is the reality. It's a tougher part of running non-profit and non-governmental organization in most part of Africa. So many NGO leaders will really prefer to do intervention, implementation projects, going to a community to provide hepatitis screening, going to a community to provide cancer screening. But for me personally, I think we cannot make a huge difference in our continent if we continue to only do interventions instead of pushing the government to do its job.
Yeah.
Personally, I, as the executive director, I want to lose my job. Every time I go abroad, I'm speaking in different events. What I hear from people is people are talking about clinical trial. People are talking about biobanking. People are talking about other high-level part of cancer control. But I am still talking about screening, sporadic screening, not even national screening program, which are not making any difference. This can only happen if advocacy is empowered. I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is very, very value. And I think that's great, because you mentioned a very important point, that sometimes you have great ideas how to do advocacy, but if you have not capacities or the funding opportunities, so how to do it best. And maybe one personal anecdotal story for you. I have worked some weeks in Ghana long years ago. And what I have used there was opportunity that at that time Miss Ghana was interested in my topic, but also a famous singer and Vodafone. And so we had the triangle of a superstar, Miss Ghana, the superstar in radio, and a financial resource, Vodafone. And with that, we built up a campaign that has run more than 2 years, and with a sustainable funding. And then the government took over the funding for, at that time, viral hepatitis. But it was interesting to learn how you have to deal and what are the challenges in this country. And I think that's great that you have mentioned these points, because some of them are covered in the Campaign for Cancer Toolkit. And so you can learn from their experience how they have overwhelmed. And saying this, I like to go over the world now and come back now, or to lead over now to you, Roberta. So with the APAC, you're doing advocacy in the Asia Pacific room. And I wonder if you can short highlight what are the key challenges in advocacy for you, Roberta, and respectively the organization APAC.
Yeah, thanks, Ashim, and sorry for my camera off, and I hope you can hear me, because I have terrible network today in Qatar. So yes, I do advocacy for in most of the APAC countries, which is of course very challenging, because as you all know, APAC is very diverse, right? So we think about APAC as a region, but actually it's a number of very different countries. So you have to adapt a lot. And going back to your point, Ashim, just earlier, it's very true that when you interact with policymakers and decision makers in Korea and in Japan and in Singapore and in Vietnam, you are basically doing very different jobs. So I think for me, what works is really trying to understand the local specificities. And usually when I do advocacy or policy, shaping initiatives, I try to partner as much as I can with local expert organizations. That's number one. Number two, I think for most of the market, not all, but for most of the market, you need also to adjust in terms of the language. So, and really try to find that cultural proximity. But then, of course, it takes a lot of time. And I guess this is true everywhere in the world, right? So policy change doesn't happen overnight. And it's very complicated to communicate this message to the private organizations who are most often beyond these initiatives, right? So I mean, it's really complex, but I think two things mainly. Number one, local partnerships, and number two, trying really to adapt and tailor the messages to the local specificities. Sometimes it's a matter of language, sometimes it's a matter of, going to meet there in person rather than organizing virtual events that might work for other countries but not for there. So yeah, these are all the things that I found useful in my during my time as advocate or facilitator of policy discussions.
Thank you, Roberta. Thank you very much. And with the last minutes, I'd like to focus on one advocacy string that is, I think, one of the hardest. And I like to ask you, Ting Ting, advocacy within a migrant group in a foreign system. So Ting Ting, I think it would be great if you can give us a little bit the floor of how you organize advocacy for liver cancer in the Asian population within the US, because sometimes rising awareness is sometimes combined with rising stigma to those marginalized groups. And I wonder, Ting Ting, what are your experience you can share with us shortly, doing such a great job you do?
I actually just started this effort last June at the ASCO meeting when I realized there was no Asian advocates in the patient discussion for the health disparity discussion. So I just I started this initiative about helping immigrants. Now we're connecting to a lot of these researchers on health disparity, about reaching out to Asian communities, immigrant communities, in general, not just limited to Asians, because South and East European language speakers also have a challenge in this area. So we actually started from data. We dived into the US data sets and tried to understand throughout the whole government system how the landscape for all the GI cancer looked like. And where GI was actually what we found, 5 GI cancers contribute to almost more than a quarter of cancer deaths. And in the US, and it's overlooked. And it doesn't get a lot of advocacy. And I think David already made a very good point. And so we started from data. We try to highlight, speak up at different conferences, different disparity discussions about how immigrant groups are actually being impacted. What little known is actually close to 14% of US population are foreign born. And we almost a half of this population doesn't speak English very well. So we have a language issue. We have in addition to a health access issue, we don't have a very vocal advocacy group for this population. And this is what we do. And liver cancer turned out to be a very strong candidate, because there's a big need. There's a huge mortality rate in Southeast Asian groups in this country, and we can. I think this connects back to what Rebecca is doing in Asia, and so we're trying to tap into the resources here in the international liver cancer movement, and we are honored to be a member, and we want to contribute more by raising awareness in all the NCI discussion, in the US cancer plan, and we have been speaking on all these platforms.
Yeah, and Ting Ting, don't hesitate to be connected with Adia, because I think so. It is great that you are the movement, all of you, not me, not Diana. It is you who drives the agenda, and this is great. How you collaborate and how you can, support each other. And I think so by using a tool from one member, by using it from the other members, it's great. And unfortunately, we would run out of time. Otherwise, Lorena, I had tons of questions to you as well, because you are very specification with, you are a scientific organization and a patient organization at the same time and doing advocacy. And there's also a lot of very interesting aspects you could share, but unfortunately, we're running out of time.
I'm sorry, I think I got the time wrong. I thought it was the time now.
Yeah, so we.
Oh, sorry, it's 6 a.m. in my country. I just
yes, I hope you had coffee.
sorry,
But see, so it is 6 in your country, and David, it is.
It's now 10 p.m.
Oh, okay. So you can.
I am so sorry. I got it
No
wrong.
problem. But let me thank you, Adia, once again. So it is great that you have presented today the tool, the Patient Advocate Incubator from the Campaign for Cancer. And I can just repeat myself to everyone here. Please provide your material to the initiative and position it, because all of you have developed very good material, and it would be great if it can be used by uploading it to the Patient Advocacy Incubator platform, so that many other patient organizations, especially in Africa and the Middle East, can benefit from your experience. And saying this, I like to thank everyone, and normally the last word is to the steering group chair, D, but today he is replaced by Diana. And before I hand over to you, Diana, I like to address that next week, on Wednesday the 24th, from 2:30 Central European Summertime, we have another member from ILCM. It is AstraZeneca, who invites to the Patient Advocacy and Policy Roundtable. I think you have received an email. If not, we send out a reminder. But it would be great that we can continue there now the discussion with around advocacy, because advocacy is saving lives. And with this, I hand over to you, Diana, to close this great session. Thank you very much to everyone.
Also from my side, thank you so much for all the different perspectives and aspects around the topic of advocacy. I think probably we may need another session exactly on that, and be a bit more detailed and more specific on a few things which just have been scratched today. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good remaining day or a good night. We are happy to see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.